And that is going to be the end of our combat. And that is going to be the end of our current active play of this test play. How are you all feeling?
Uh,
Good.
I definitely like this round a lot. This is fun.
I feel like we started a little choppy, just like kind of getting back into it,
Hmm.
and then unfortunately, my learning this new sheet real quick.
Not to cut
I
off
th-
your idea.
yeah.
If you're bringing in and my learning this new sheet is a consideration, you learned an entire new character having looked at it for what, 10 minutes before we played?
Let's call it that. Yeah. But I was trying to math out in my head, like, yeah, we're doing combat testing. Um, we've been playing for what, roughly 3 hours on screen, including diatribe. But
Yes.
we had a lot of enemies because of just the way it was designed, and I'm trying to, like, compare the time frame
Hmm.
for, like, how we did today versus in previous sessions.
And this was a double combat. This was two
Yes.
combats
Yeah.
back to back.
I'm surprised we didn't die. I've been beaten up this whole time, and I always worry about, like, the first third of the combat. I kinda get really worried in my head about the math of, like, the PC stamina and body. But once we got into the swing of it and we were using our abilities properly, I stopped taking body damage.
Hmm. Learning the rhythm, but also I think no matter what, okay, not no matter what, unless all of the heroes go at the beginning of hero phase one, I think there's going to be an initial impact into stamina and possibly body if a bunch of bad guys go first before you have the chance to clear out whether it's a handful of minions or if there's a couple squads that it's one per uh one
Yeah, yeah.
creature per PC. Like until you start clearing out the initial first wave, they're throwing more damage at you. And then once you knock them down, I think that's where you then level out of like, okay, we took the bulk of the damage we're going to take, and the rest of this is tactics. How well do we tactically play to prevent
That
any
yeah,
more damage from happening?
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
I don't know if that's intended design, but that's just what I'm starting to see of the emergent design of the current bad guy setup, and I could be wrong.
Well, it
Yeah, I
kinda
think
lines up.
it.
Sorry.
But
I was gonna say it kinda lines up with, like, previously we talked about, like, the cinematic nature of the combats and, like, that kinda getting your bearings, like, yeah, maybe you're in a dwarf tomb and that first wave of goblins gets through that door finally,
Mhm.
and it's a wave and you start cutting them down, and that's because you had, like, positioning advantage, but then there's a lot of goblins, and it's a slog for a bit, and this is kind of opposite point, like, and then at the very end, you start taking big damage because you're swarmed, but, like, in this, we're seeing the in this combat at least, and maybe one of the previous ones where, like, the tactics are on the enemy side first, but also we've had combats where it gets lined up in the first round or 2 for the wizard to just, like, blast a bunch of folk.
Mhm.
So, still lines up with the whole cinematic idea.
yeah, I like how like it flowed. I think that was really good. One of the things I would say on that, like as far as turn order goes, you're right. Like it is up to the cards as to what everybody pulls, and um, if you have a 3 stat block um, encounter and all 3 stat blocks somehow get in villain one, and all of your PCs get into like hero two. That that's gonna that's gonna suck a lot because they're all just gonna go and wreck you as much as they can first.
Uh,
Um,
I will say for that, monsters do not draw for initiative. Monster stat blocks have a what phase do they act in?
oh,
And
that's cool.
then, I haven't written out all the rules, but, like, if you have multiple stat blocks of the same type, like, you then start spacing them, apart, where like okay, we have two bone clackers. The bone clackers go in. Actually, we'll use the rib rattlers since they go in villain 2. If you have two groups of rib rattlers, the first one goes in villain 2, the second will go in villain 3, and then they wrap back up to the top. Or if they're already in villain 3, they go to villain 2. Like, the goal is not to put monster stat blocks in villain 1 unless that is part of their stat block is they are very fast, or they are very present, and like so the necromancer being able to raise more zombies and more skeletons before they get to go. So unless there's a reason for a monster to go in villain 1, they really don't. But even then, it's always designed so hero 1, then villain 1, hero 2, then villain 2, to try to let you guys get ahead of them. But yeah, if all the heroes are 2 and 3, and you have a couple, you have anything in earlier than that, they do start to hit hard before you take them down. So I tried to balance the initiative system by like favoring heroes going first, but there's still the randomness of the initiative test that has to happen.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't know that the stat blocks had a set, like here's where they go.
Yeah, that's not something that's been public, so I figured it was a good time to like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a rule of the game that I'm currently using.
I think that's good. Like that makes it easier for people to not think that, they just drew better and they're gonna go, they're all gonna go.
Mhm.
If you had something like a skill or a maneuver that you can pick up at some point, because I know you can do your agility, right? Um, if there was something, because I know as you level up, you're gonna get more things, right? Or
Yes.
does this do that? Okay. So like maybe at some point they could be like, I would prefer to be able to go first over being able to hit harder or something like that, or whatever, and they could pick an ability that would allow them to add to their initiative draw. Might be
So
cool. I don't know.
that's definitely that is definitely design space. Currently initiative, I'm still tinkering with it of what you are adding. Um, there like initiative is kind of in the air to the situation. It's easy to make it kind of equivalent to like a dexterity check with agility. Um, but if you guys are trying to ambush the enemies, initiative could be a stealth test. Initiative, if you're on guard duty and you are being ambushed, it could be a notice or discipline test, to see who is on guard. So there isn't a current initiative will always be this stat. It's kind of
I
situation
like that.
dependent.
Yeah.
But have like even knowing that, having the design space for having an ability that is um like you can take stress when you draw initiative to increase your draw, or just other things to like deliberately build a character of like, no, I want the ability to know that I can go earlier in the combat, whatever it is. And so the idea of having abilities that give bonuses beyond whatever the situation calls for is very good design space.
Yeah.
A
I,
re-
and that's just kind of something that I had thought about, but I don't. Yeah, it would, if it would detract from how you have it set up, because hearing that it's not always just an agility skill, because like
Mhm.
my character has one agility, right? Like it's never going to have more than one added. As you
Mhm.
level up, I guess you can get more in there, but um, like being a defender, you kind of want to defend people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
could possibly pick to do that instead of something else. I don't know. But on the stuff for today's test, like I think that tactical bonus boon was cool. I think, I mean, that worked out in our favor, but it also worked out in the necromancer's favor, detrimental to her, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah, like she had a double boon because like she even had a mechanic that like, oh no, it's not just clubs, it's all black cards, and like I just didn't get the draw. So we have seen that like it's not super overpowered. I had a 50% chance of getting another draw, and Barrett had a 25% chance, and I got 0, and he got 2. He was drawing more cards, but the math is still showing that um, it doesn't guarantee.
And that's like, I know when I first saw that, I was like, I was trying to math it in my head of like what felt better
Hmm.
with the, because I still have, I've got the 1.9.4
Hmm.
reference sheet here,
Hmm.
+1 raw. And I do believe last session, when we first started the session, we were doing it backwards, but the like, it's not
Hmm.
like you're gonna like when you have a prone target, having the chance of a diminishing chance of a very big hit versus just guaranteed more damage. What feels better? Like, getting more boons on the field. I know we've been having a very hard time getting boons on the field, and
Hmm.
so this is a good way to implement them. You said that at the very beginning. But the exploding is always scary because you don't like, if is it gonna explode 3 times? Uh-oh.
Uh-huh. See, I know, like this might be the first game I've designed with an exploding mechanic. And so it's like it's touch and go, like, oh, I don't know. This seems like a cool idea. I like using the suits. I like the idea of clubs being the clovers, the luck, that sort of thing. Good
Mhm,
luck, bad luck.
mhm.
Like I really like that. Um and yeah, I just don't know. I don't know whether tactical bonuses are better for just like the flat +1 draw, or if there's the chance for like, oh no, if you play tactically, you could have something absolutely explode in damage.
It I feel it plays better into the chance of it because, like, harkening back to 5th edition D&D where everything just gives you advantage.
Hmm.
You're not even doing damage yet. Like, you have a greater chance of hitting that creature, but here we don't have everything's just direct damage and you can defend. So if that guy's at the top of the stairs and you're fighting upwards and he comes down with a really lined up attack, he might hit you really good. And you might have to do everything you can to save your life.
I like that. I think it made a good mechanic for that. Toying in my head with because she had the double boon because her ability gave her a boon for it, and then um, the being flanked gave her the second boon, so she'd have 50%.
Hmm.
Um, I think I think having different levels of boons is great. I think possibly if it'd probably take a lot, but you do have a lot for your force movement. So, um, like you could kind of solidify out scenarios where something with such an advantage, like your opponent is prone, you would get a double boon for that instead of just a boon. But somebody
Oh,
flanking would be a boon, right? Because they're slightly distracting, but you still got stuff you can move around.
so part of tactical bonuses in the design was meant to like all these different things. We can just call them one term and do it. But the idea of having like, no, guys, prone is really bad. If an ally gets knocked prone and you are close enough, it's worth your turn to go over and help them up. Like spending half of your turn to go help up a prone ally, like because that doesn't happen much in my experience of D&D. Like, yes, it's bad and you want to
Yeah,
consider, but like it's very rare that it's a situation where you are spending most of your turn trying to get your ally up. Now that is a false dichotomy because in this case you have 4 action points. You can move over for 1, pick him up for 1 and still have half your turn, where D&D it's your action. So that's not necessarily a fair estimation, but the idea of possibly having differing levels of the tactical bonus and maybe just making prone not be a tactical bonus. Just the prone condition gives adjacent attacks a double boon and
Well,
just leave it out of the tactical bonuses.
Yeah.
here's a counterpoint.
Yes.
In D&D, anybody can stand up on their turn. In this, somebody might have agility 1 and might only be able to get themselves up and not be like, if it's a dangerous scene, like if it's a get out of
Mhm.
dodge, or like if there's something falling, that
Mhm.
person might only be able to get themselves on their feet and not be able to move. A little more dangerous here.
So, counter to that, you
Yeah.
can use an agility to stand up because prone is a negative condition. You can always use a
Oh,
willpower as
yep,
well.
yep, yep,
So
yep.
part of that design, it's great that you brought it up. Part of that
Talked
design
about this before. I forgot.
is to allow for, like, yes, it's bad to be knocked prone, but you have multiple outs from it. So that is the one condition that you have multiple outs from, is willpower or agility, depending on whether you are faster or you're just fighting through it. Now,
I mean,
go ahead.
in that same vein, if you look at it as if somebody's prone, a melee attacker has a double boon to when attacking, but
Mhm.
like they would technically be harder to hit for someone who is ranged at the same level. Because you get a boon if you're above them, right?
Yes, yes.
So, um, like I think if you're not, and that always confused me. Like in D&D, if you're ranged, you and somebody's prone, you you have disadvantage to shoot them. But if you're above them, like
Hmm.
elevated, you still have disadvantage to shoot them. And I'm like, you're shooting fish in a barrel. You should have advantage and cancel out,
Yeah,
but
like
they don't.
I feel the same.
the intention there is, like, if you're down, you're taking cover, you're a smaller target, and 5e does not have 3D mechanics. It just doesn't. Like, it doesn't
Right.
have 3D mechanics, which is fine for the game that it is. I don't believe for this on the prone, I don't think my prone says anything about ranged attacks. Movement costs twice the distance, and melee attacks against you gain a tactical bonus. We're talking about maybe that being a double boon instead. The prone condition has a maximum value of 1 and can be ended by an effect that reduces a condition or by taking the stand up action. So stand up being it takes an agility, and then anything that reduces a negative condition. So if you have like the
Right
willpower
through it.
maneuver aid, aid can give back stamina and reduce negative conditions, and you can get somebody up with aid. The fight through it that Elias you had, you you could be prone, and if you use fight through it, you get a free stand up and your full attack.
It's pretty cool.
It does give a lot of outs for being prone. So which is why I don't think making it a double boon attack against you would be like too overpowered, but it does definitely make it um worth it to help your allies. And if this is a tactical type of game, like you
Hmm.
want to think those kind of tactics of my ally is over there, oh, he'll be fine. He can just get up and I can go over and do these things, right? Like
Okay. Uh, we've talked back and forth, and we have been throwing examples and counter examples out just as, like, hashing it out. Um, Druid's Flame, you have been very clear on thinking that the double boon is not, like, it's bad. Like, it's something you want to deal with, but there's multiple outs. Barrett, how do you feel about prone being a double boon to Testplay in the future?
For melee,
For melee, yeah.
that's perfectly fine.
Cool, cool. So we're
Because
currently
like
oh, go ahead.
you can kill somebody. If they're on the ground, you got a big axe, they're not in a good place.
Cool, cool. So currently we're feeling good about the overall tactical bonuses granting boons for right now. Is we kind of got off of that with the prone, but as like this whole boon play at least worth considering to play out and test with.
I definitely think the boons were great for I think the math is better because you have a chance of hitting somebody hard, really hard. But you're not guaranteed to get hit hard. right? Like if somebody has a boon on you, right? So that like they have a chance to hit you really hard, but they don't um they're not guaranteed to hit you hard, which I think is cool.
Barrett, how are you feeling on that?
I agree.
Okay. How are we feeling about my flat four, not four, 3 doom per round? And yes, we saw that I had other features that allowed me to self-generate other ways. But how are we feeling about me just getting a flat 3 doom and you not having to worry about momentum giving me more evil power?
From a player standpoint, I thought it was really good. Like I think I did notice you added things that you could regenerate Doom, which is good because like we can generate momentum. You should be able to generate Doom somehow, right? Um, but also like it didn't feel like you had too much. I don't think it felt. I don't know about too little. Like maybe, but um, that was just kind of the broken aspect of the steamroller.
Maybe, maybe the steamroller really affected this test play.
uh, but like, yeah, I think with Flat Doom from a player side aspect, it felt good to me. I don't know how it felt from your side as the GM, but
I have an opinion. I will save that opinion until I hear Barrett's.
I would like to see the math because I do believe overall you may have generated more doom than previously,
Hmm.
but also I do not know how your stat blocks you use today, what their doom consumption was like, and how that because like you're using doom, yes,
Hmm.
but how did that doom hit the field differently today than it did in previous sessions? Um,
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
you
yes.
did you did not do very much defending at all today.
You are correct.
Um, I do think there was an erroneous spike in doom, and maybe I think it might have just not been explained well.
Hmm.
When you went up to 12, I there was a reason you went up from, like, 9 to 12, and I don't remember what it was, but it was during the phase change. Was the phase change supposed to happen instantaneously or at the end of the round? So I didn't get my turn before the phase change.
Gotcha. Yeah. So the phase change, the intention, and this could be bad. The intention is when the trigger happens, the phase change happens, and we redo initiative, and the possibility
That's
that
fine.
some
Yeah,
people do not get their turn that round of combat.
that's perfectly
Um,
fine.
Yeah, so there
Um,
was that, and I think
hmm,
I had 9, Hal took out the rest, and then because we started a new initiative, I got another 3 before spending any. So there
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah,
quick
yeah.
jump from 6 to 9 to 12. So that was a big jump that happened based off of the phase change. Um, you are correct that I did not do a lot of defending, and I think the reason for that on my end is I knew to
Blunt
let.
damage.
Huh?
Blunt damage.
Well, blunt damage, but I knew. Okay, so there's 2 things. I'm not going to defend if the defense is not going to help me. It's not gonna save a
Same.
monster. Um, and so there's that, and I knew with the necromancer, like, let all these guys die, and then have the field free, and then re-raise them with doom, or have them available for the corpse curus regaining
Which is
10.
perfectly tactical reasoning.
Um,
makes sense.
yeah.
I would I would say to Barrett's point on not taking his turn,
Uh-huh.
um, if because he had the potential there,
Uh-huh.
w- would it be better or worse? Because you carry momentum over, so would it be like when the phase change happens, whatever you have in potential, you can move to momentum?
That's
That
cheesy.
no, I like that because you didn't get to take your turn. And there's a
Well, I
chance
guess
you
if you
you you end up at the bottom of the next initiative and you essentially go about two rounds reacting to stuff.
yeah.
I think anyone that does not get to take their turn in a phased battle, you may immediately fill into momentum.
Okay. I was feeling both sides of this, like, because it feels a little cheesy, just like, oh, I didn't get to go, but here's all my momentum,
So the
which
other
just
option is, hey guys, all the enemies are gone. Oh, you hear something from the crypt. Will everyone else take your turns preparing and doing stuff? And then part of the phase change mechanic is to like give you back stamina and give you a little bit of movement and give you the ability to react. So either you should get all your momentum or you should get to take your turn, at which point maybe don't have the phased battle. Like, here's the things you get in the middle. Like, it feels like maybe it should be one or the other. You get your turn or just put your momentum where you want to put it.
I, I think it would be good to do that. I mean, with the flat doom and not worrying about converting momentum into
Mm-hmm.
doom, it does make it a lot like a lot easier to decide when you're going to use that momentum. Like, sure, I want to save it for some things, but like, I, if I need to use it, I want to be able to use it. And if you're able to carry over, up to four, I technically, uh, plus whatever you already had,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can't. Maybe you could say part of it as a, if you are like converting potential into momentum, it has to go in like your core stat, or at least one of them has to go in your core stat or something. I don't know if that would make a
I don't know if I
difference,
want to
but
put that
it's
restriction on it
difficult. Yeah,
because, like,
it,
when we start the next turn, you're going to be getting your income, which then means it may just be wasted.
right. Well, I got to a couple of times in turn order where my defense momentum was full just
Mhm.
because I was trying to trigger Dreadnought. Um,
Because you weren't defending. That was your choice. That wasn't the design of the game. That was you making a choice. Okay.
uh, back to real quick before we go too far.
Mhm.
I'm still on team not flat doom
Ooh, okay.
because I like it.
You like
I like it a lot.
the
I
worry of the
like the
momentum.
conversion.
You
No,
like the
it's not about the
conversion.
worry. I like the conversion.
Okay.
Like I've talked about this before. I don't care. I don't care that spending momentum gives you doom. I like it.
Okay.
It's just it just feels like the game. And it feels like the given like when you have a I guess when you have a good DM or a empathetic DM or somebody you know and trust,
Mhm.
we're playing a game, and this is a tactical game. This is not D&D where we're gonna be playing 63 sessions of espionage and big stakes battles and downtime. This is a tactical game. It almost another point I want to bring up is like dungeon meshy rules, like delicious in dungeon, but um the Doom conversion is enticing to me as a player, just on a very bare bones level.
Okay.
um,
Um, on the yes, there was the big spike with how the turns happened and the phase, and like so we went from 6 to 12, and then I almost spent all of it on the like, oh, this is what the necromancer does with this big thing. Um, yes, I was not defending as much because of the you guys fully playing into the vulnerability and all that, knowing I could bring them back. Um, there have been many other combats where I either spend most of it with 0 doom because you lot aren't spending it, and I don't necessarily have a monster that has a self-generation method. Or I end up with a ton and I feel like, oh, I can't do anything here. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, I guess I'm just going to take my big bad and swing him and use +7 doom to enhance his ability. Like, I felt like, yes, there was the big moment with the spike and like, oh, we're going to raise up all these zombies. But there was never a moment where it was like, okay, now I'm just going to blow past your shields and just do a massive damage attack. It felt like, and this is, a very isolated incident for the design of these monsters. It felt like I used the doom for how they should be used for these monsters instead of just, well, I got a bunch of it. This monster's almost dead. I guess I'll just try and kill somebody right now. Like that has happened in other games, and like there was the big spend moment, and it happened halfway through the combat, and from there I was hovering between 0 and 3 Doom for the rest of the combat, I think. I could be wrong, but
That sounds right.
that's my feeling of the experience is it felt more like the Doom, and that could just be the monster design, but it
But I
felt
was
like
gonna say
the
that's like
yeah.
this session had Doom hitting the field in a different way
Mhm.
than previous sessions.
Yeah.
It did. The only my only gripe about the converting momentum to Doom was that you can use it immediately to defend. So it's like, why am I
Mm.
spending 2 momentum because you can just use that 2 momentum to block.
Yeah. No, that is
Like
a very
that's
good criticism.
that's the only that would be the only gripe I had about the converting momentum because I agree with Barrett. Like it is a tactical game. You're making that decision to give them momentum, give the DM momentum, but like the DM has to choose when to use those and when to not. But being able to just like use it immediately as soon as you're
Gotcha.
spending it, kind of that was my only draw about using momentum when I was making an attack against something. It's because you could use it to defend immediately.
Yeah. So, how about next test play, we go back to converting momentum, and I change the way that Doom armor works. Doom armor being the way I defend with Doom, and make it so I can't use it until the end of the player's turn that's giving it to me. Is that something that we would want to test play?
I think that would be cool.
I think that's fine. I just there's always the line of is it too gritty? Is it too many rules? Like
Yeah.
we're always like A, we're test playing, so we're always on that line.
Hmm.
Um Maybe not the end of the player's turn, but cannot be used against the action that caused the momentum.
Okay. Yeah, and like
Something like that.
the use immediately was just a you don't have to pay attention to where this doom is from. Like it like that
Yeah.
rule is purely for ease of play of not having to keep track.
Well,
Um
maybe it's like because you won't have to keep track of it. It's like as you said, it's an in-person thing. So
yeah.
somebody says, I'm going to use these 2 momentum
Hmm.
and these 3 potential to make this attack, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever is in the doom pool currently, before you even slide that momentum
Yeah.
over, you can use. There's no problem using it. But once you're done with the maneuver that you're doing, then you slide the doom into the doom pool.
I like that. I like that. I th- what I think though, and this is something we cannot test play. We just can't. Is we are putting very specific rules on the physical operations of how people act at a gaming table. And if you've ever played any board games with anybody, despite a game having a diagram of how you're supposed to lay out your space, people do not lay out their space that way. They do things then, okay, I'm just going to do this here. Like, don't worry, I'll remember this. And so the intention of the rule, fantastic. But the very specifics of when you pick up pieces and put them in, I think works perfectly like communism. Written down, great. In practice, so many problems. I am more than willing to play forward online and figure this out. I also know that there's going to be those players, and you cannot design for those players. But that, like, when you try to make rules about how exactly you physically do stuff at a table, like, that is a rule where you just put it out there and you hope for the best.
Right. I mean, that
Maybe
was
Yeah.
just a
more of
lot.
a sorry, that was
Yeah.
more of keep a track, not
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ease of keeping track. But like the line is, you
Hmm.
can't use
Yeah.
the Doom generated off of them. Like the
Mhm.
doom isn't generated until the maneuver is
Until
done.
the maneuver completes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am totally cool with jumping back and doing some more converting because that was the
Well,
initial design of the system, and just having that little addendum. It until the thing completes, it is not added to the
so
Doom stockpile.
what was your opinion on the flat doom? Gosh.
I think it was more accessible to me as opposed to
Okay.
having to wait. But I have also had players that like will math out everything to try to spend as little momentum as possible, and that's not an issue I have with the two test players before me. So I really liked it, but also it is a design of convenience versus design of the intended design of the game is kind of currently built around the converting and
Mhm.
like you guys do cool stuff, then I do cool stuff. And we don't have any of them, but there's a few mechanics for
On
maybe
Combat Doom.
well, there's out of combat doom, but there is like the path of melody and verse, which is the kind of the bard pathway, all about like actively singing songs in the battle and changing from song to song, and like it's a very complex thing that I have not made a pregen for, but there's some stuff in there that interact with how Doom converts, how momentum converts to Doom, and interacting with the Doom stockpile as you are, your music is affecting the drama of the moment. And so, like, if we stuck with Flat Doom, I would have to go redesign the path of verse and melody or song and whatever it is. Um, but if we can make converting a momentum work and make it feel good for players, that is my preferred design. It's not design that I'm locked into, but if it can be done, it is my preferred design.
So how much
Um,
easier was it today having flat doom? How much work was taken off of your plate running the game with the flat doom versus conversion?
There's less having to check in with players and making sure that I am getting the doom I deserve. Of like, wait, what did you just spend? Like, I didn't have to do that, and I knew I didn't have to do that. That said, like, we would start house turn, and halfway through house turn, I'd go up and I'd add the 3 doom. So like, I'm more concerned about telling you guys the order of operations than I'm missing like the exact moment for myself. As like, I make sure Hal's good to go for his stuff. Once again, this game is designed to be played in person and like to have a just like a little pot where you can do like, hey, throw your little momentum chips, which is less of me having to manually do tokens or like I could give you guys permission to change the Doom stockpile. Um, it's not something I want to do just in terms of players having to learn how to play the game and looking at non-automated sheets and you're tracking all your stuff and like it's not an expectation I want on you to have to remember to give me Doom. So just the overhead for flat Doom is simpler in terms of online play. But once again, in person, if people are literally picking up little beads or those little glass gems or whatever, and like just having a spot on the field that they put them when they spend them, like that's very simple. That isn't dealing with the overhead of me doing it online. um,
Understood.
so I think right now, while there was likes for it, I'm actually going to double up the x's just as a visual reference of like, hey, it was cool, but we're going to go back to the other way for a bit. Are we good to continue on to the next point?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Tracking minion life per creature instead of a big pool to the side.
I'll straight up say it affected me it affected me none at all.
Okay.
If it's easier for you, like actually, is that harder for you?
So it makes where you put ones and twos matter more, as opposed to I throw this much damage at the stat block, how many die? Like it makes the choice of where you put overflow and stuff matter a little more. But in this combat where you guys had a big vulnerability that you had every means of exploiting, it didn't matter a lot. I think the big pool of minion life was a nice idea, and without trying to do stuff different than draw steel, like it was, oh, this is my idea. Let's do this thing. I don't know if the fact that we're just currently playing draw steel every other week makes the independent health easier, but at the same time, draw steel on like a digital tabletop. Actually, draw steel on the digital tabletop has a closer system to what I was previously doing, making it my own idea, as it, just all the health bar goes into a single pool with little lines showing what minions it goes to. So I think independently tracking is more tactical and easier on roll 20. I think that will be very different playing in person.
Yeah, it's true.
So for roll 20 VTT, tracking independent healths and the possibility of little small damages adding up here and there, I think it's more tactical. Um, I think it's easier for just like spawning minions and stuff than having to adjust a well, how many minions do we have? How many players do we have? Let's adjust these, blah blah blah. So I think going forward, unless Druid's Flame, you have a strong opinion, I think for the moment we'll continue tracking minion life how I did today.
I I liked it. I mean, it didn't make a huge difference for me, but it
Yeah.
did like it did give you kind of that the knowledge of roughly what something's going to have. If you hit it with enough, it's going to go away. So when I was doing my steamroller, which you're probably going to need to reduce that damage, but
Yeah.
when I was doing that steamroller, it was like, I knew if you hit it with 5, it was gone. So like that was a thing. But um, yeah, I mean, because players aren't always going to know how much hit points a minion stat block has, but if they know how much each minion has, it makes, in my mind, it makes a difference. So like,
Okay.
I liked it.
Cool. In that case, we'll put a check there. Without thinking too hard about it, I'm considering for the Dreadnought reducing it down to brackets Marshall. So essentially, whatever your Marshall score is, that's what the Dreadnought Steamroller does. And so most time, it's just going to be a 3. People that are going to take that are going to have a 3. They may have a 2. Hal would have a 2. And then for much later play where you start to like get to increase your stats, it could go up to a 4. It could go up to a 5, but that's very late game, equivalent to like level 20, level 30 play where you're getting 5s in a category. But yeah, so awesome. Minion damage transferring to minions within reach of the initial attack versus Wi-Fiing anywhere with anything. Did we feel this was better? This also plays into the fact that we're independently tracking their health as opposed to a giant pool. Like these two kind of work together. How did we feel about only being able to bounce damage to what is within the hammer's reach?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of streamlines it. Doesn't make sense that, you're going to kill a minion in front of you and then one across the map is just going to drop dead from fright,
It then also helps with the steamroller and with the forced movement and knocking into walls and stuff where it's easier to
I,
go ahead.
you did reduce minion health, correct?
Not between the last 2 games.
Okay.
No, we from the unlisted game available on the Patreon, and the obligatory Goblin Adventure, they got reduced, but these are the same minion health numbers. Both of these were mobs, so it was 3 creatures per player character. So every stat block for the Rib Rattlers and the Bone Clackers ended up having a total of 6 each. Um, I was going to do the bone clackers, the melees. I was going to do them as a horde, so they would have been 2 hit point, 2 body each, and there would have been 6, not 6. Yeah, 6. 6 per character. But I felt like that just makes some of the damage, especially like I don't know if minions should have vulnerabilities. Maybe that should only be for like squads and standards. Um, but at least it was fun while it lasted. I'll have to reapproach that at a future time when I'm rethinking through monster designs. But maybe minions don't get vulnerabilities and resistances. Maybe they get resistances, so it matters what you attack with, but it's not. I should write that down. Maybe minions only get resistances and not vulnerabilities. That way, you still have weapon choice mattering, but not as much as just having a hammer helped.
Not even my hammer.
Not even your hammer, yeah,
Or a shield.
or a shield. Yeah, I redid some of the weapons, made shields and some other stuff secondary weapons to like, hey, yeah, you can totally still use them, but having a sword or an axe is still better. Um, and I tried to do that for like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter that the spider took my weapon. My shield does the same amount of damage, and I am completely unfazed. Well, let's lower the damage a little. Maybe I need to lower it a little bit more. Um, because still in here, it's like, it doesn't matter. We'll just give this over to my companion, and it's the same. Though that problem may also be affected by the minion vulnerability. I don't know. There's too many factors in that space to like that just needs more testing.
I think part of that was definitely the vulnerability because either way, I was going to hit with a +5
Yeah.
because both of them were bludgeoning. And then just letting him use the hammer
Mm-hmm.
means I'm still doing bludgeoning. And if I'm hitting with a +5, obviously it's just going to kill it.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I get, lowering some of those. I would, again, design space, think if somebody wanted to have that like as their style, possibly being able to do something in the future, pick something up that allows you to do same damage, but not
Mm.
not a big thing, just a
Yeah,
suggestion.
like if you want to play Captain America and just be total shield, that feels more like a magic item than it does. But yeah, no, that's far beyond where we are now.
I have
Amazing.
thoughts about the resistance and vulnerability.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think I need to mull it over a little bit. And I think as far as today is concerned, the most bare thought that I have
Mm-hmm.
is that a shield shouldn't count as a weapon type vulnerability. Like
Okay.
the shield is not coming in like a mace or a hammer,
It should be
and
untyped.
Clearly, you
potentially.
haven't seen me swing my shield.
Well, I did, and that's the problem. But just like going back to the Captain America, a shield is not like that's a broad surface,
Mm-hmm.
and this doesn't affect the fact that I had a hammer and I was just smashing skellies.
Yeah.
But we both just like went through and plowed through all that in combination with the over damage from the dreadnought. I feel, but at the same time, at what points that we didn't have the over damage from the dreadnought and the excessive vulnerability damage between the two of us,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we didn't have those that we would have survived. I think we would have
Possibly.
been like,
Yeah.
because like we cleared out a lot of minions. I was skirting at the edge. Like, I mean, I did take a lot of damage early on, and that's possibly my fault or circumstantial. Um, Hal was kind of floating right above minimum stamina, occasionally taking body damage. And the math on the field is that like the mobs are suited to two PCs, correct?
Yes. So before we get too far,
Yeah.
I think the dreadnought damage did not spread, so it ended with every independent one. So when you were saying over damage, just want to make sure that that is clear that the dreadnought damage was killing,
Not.
but it was
Yes.
not
Yes.
it was
Yes.
not bouncing.
Yes.
Um, the vulnerabilities for most of your attacks, for most of the skeleton +5 from bludgeoning, was all wasted. Like most of it was like you ran out of skeletons well before you used up the damage. I
Okay.
think when you did the big steel hurricane, without considering the bludgeoning, if they did not have vulnerability, I think you would have drawn enough damage to like damage this guy, and maybe like the first one with an ace didn't kill, but the over damage you would have collected from the others, a 6 here, an 8 there, I think you would have killed everybody in there by the end of it with just minion bouncing damage without the vulnerability.
Yes.
So I don't know how drastic you guys would have won or lost without the vulnerability. I don't, but I think there's a few examples of where you still would have had moments of clearing them out. Um, and then a general thing about vulnerability and resistance is that I want to say I remembered what it was, is that I don't want those numbers to be small. For character backgrounds, they default to 3 as a small thing that will help you over multiple adventures and campaigns. But for monsters, I deliberately want those numbers to be 5s and 10s for, hey, you probably shouldn't use this weapon. You really should not use this weapon. Or if you have this weapon, it will make everything a lot easier. I want to stay away from them being small bonuses or deficits to like a noticeable difference, which is where maybe minions should not have vulnerabilities, because the difference I want it to make is their entire health. So those are some
Okay. We
ideas there, but
we can revisit that then.
yeah, but your concern that without the
So
vulnerabilities, would you have been trounced when these are supposed to be all mathed out to be versus 2 heroes?
yes, it was more. I guess maybe it was more just there were several turns where we were taking out a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like just a few too many. Not like the Steel Hurricane because that worked very well, and then it worked more than I thought it would because of the weird rules thing. Um, but maybe we were just fully intended to smash through piles of skeletons.
I mean, the intention is when there's minions that if you focus on them, they die. The the total life that they have is supposed to be mathed out to be about and like body is worth 1 point each. Stamina is worth 2 points per point of life. About 12. So with minions being 6 per PC with 2 health each, or 3 per PC with 4 health each, that is 12 body per stat block per player character. On average, a player character attacking should do about 12 points of damage on their turn if you think of an average draw of 2 cards being about 13. The intention is if everybody focuses on a stat block, you should wipe them out in a turn. So there's the intention that if you guys are like, yes, we're going after the rib rattlers, you should be able to kill them.
But that that also comes down to the overflow right there. So
Yeah.
if they're spread out and you only have melee characters, your
Mhm.
overflow isn't going to take them out without you having to move on the next one or them moving to you.
Which would
Um,
then be, are we making independent strikes, or hey guys, make sure you are also spreading out to get them. Um, so yeah, like if they're super spread out, you are correct. You may not necessarily be able to easily do it. Um, which is
But
also
on
why the life is averaged a little below the, you know, you're not always drawing 2 cards. Elias was drawing 4 cards, 6 cards. And so it's averaging 2 cards per player character per stat block. So yeah, there's some of it where the tactics and the spacing is like, okay, maybe it'll take 2 turns instead of 1. You are
and that
correct
makes
that
sense,
that
but
matters.
we were both melee, right?
Mhm.
So on the flip side of that, if Barrett had played his wizard,
Mhm.
like the range of that
Mhm.
is a lot different than a melee weapon. So
Yeah.
like, if you're shooting something at somebody, and the overflow can go to something else that's within, 30 feet or whatever, that would make sense. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I get it. It works. It just tactical game, you have to worry about party composition and things like that too.
Cool, 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 cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. How are we feeling about when multiple minions attack a single target, one gets the super cool maneuver and the rest just throw in free strike damage on top? How do we feel about that?
Loved it.
I feel mixed. Um, yes, we have had previous sessions where like a PC gets absolutely beat up. Specific abilities, like specific riders on minion attacks.
Mhm.
Although some of those might have been standards, not minions.
Uh, no. The only standard that you faced before um, the Rotglut abomination was the enforcer in the lead thug
Oh,
in the bar. That was the only other
okay.
standard that you have faced, and he was
So those snipers were minions.
those snipers were minions, and yeah, we like
Yeah.
that was part of the okay, bring health of the minions way down, bring their attacks way down.
The
Okay, okay,
spell
okay.
the spell slinger was a normal or elite? Because there was a goblin caster, right?
Yes,
With the
the
spider.
Goblin Curse Spitter was they were a standard. I forgot. Both the Curse Spitter and the Spider were both standards. And for both of them, especially the Spider, once you turn your attention on the Spider, it got eliminated the moment you decided to focus on it.
But my when he was saying, you know, we've had it in the past where they get surrounded and go, like my mind immediately went to surrounded by goblins
Mhm.
and every single one of them was pulling a face card. Like
Mhm. Yes.
so yeah, I do like the one maneuver and free strike for sure. But yeah,
It's
that
good
was
for the players for the damage consumption,
Mhm.
but what is the like for the GM, the tactics of moving in?
I mean, it makes it feel like less of a loss for me to move because it's like, okay, they either get their cool maneuver or they can move and do a free strike. And by knowing that only one of them is going to get the cool maneuver, like if I have one monster survive next to you, I am then like completely okay moving others in towards you to keep you like surrounded and battened down um, to just like get a little bit of extra damage on it. Like it makes it feel less bad for me to move a minion because I know that I'm not wasting a bunch of bonus attacks that they would have gotten if they had been closer. So
That's
like
true.
it's yeah, it's less cool abilities for me, but at the same time, knowing that I'm going to have to be moving a lot of minions, it makes it better for me to feel like it's not a whole bunch of wasted knuckle and joint attacks or splintered shaft attacks. Like, no, I only get one of them on each target. It also encourages me to attack different people because instead of swarming one person, knowing I can just destroy them, like, oh no, if I'm only attacking Elias, I only get one knuckle and joint. But if I manage to position them where there's some around each of you, I can get a knuckle and joint on both of you and then get the bonus little additional damage on top. So while it's
All right,
a
I'm
yeah,
on board.
you're on board. You are more concerned with me than concerned with you.
I understand and I appreciate it now.
Cool, cool. Awesome. Well, that's a lot of the stuff that we wanted to test. Do you have any other ideas, feelings that you want to get out there? Because this is like I brought us back to this page so we could talk about the goals that I wanted to test because test playing without goals is just slapping ducks. I don't know.
No, I think it was a good test play today. I think you've made a lot of good changes that kind of updated your system and how you wanted it to function. So I think it was a good test play for sure.
Barrett, anything else from you?
No additional notes, in particular about extraneous things now.
Okay. Well, thank you both for test playing again, seeing me through this. We've done a bunch of combat. I promise there'll be some more exploration and other stuff coming soon. The goal is to have uh, to have the next edition of the rules and character sheets out for the next Patreon behind the scenes. Thank you for just being willing to try stuff out, try new characters, all this. For everyone else, thank you for watching the discussion. Once again, this is the second time that you've heard me talk because you already watched the ending of the last video. So just play the game at some point. I'd love to have you and have a lovely.